Hello and welcome to what can only be described as another Monster Magic review. And today it's all about Diabolical Bet by Nicholas Lawrence. This has been out for quite a while and I've been playing with it for quite a while. And the good news is it's not diabolical, but it is a little bit disappointing. Wait for laughter to die down. Yes, I really wasn't sure about this. I've tried it out a fair few times out and about. And first of all, what's the effect? Right. So the effect is you put two playing cards, you put a dice sandwich of two playing cards on top of a shot glass. And with one press, the dice, part of the die passes through the bottom playing card into the glass. It is a really nice visual and audible trick, which is great for bars, noisy parties, everything like that. The effect is super clear. And then you do it first, and then you give it, you pass the props onto a spectator, and they do it. And you can supposedly end clean, but there is quite a bit of a cleanup. And now what I'm doing, why I'm divided about this, is because I really like the effect. I do think it is very visual, and it is a good wow. It does get a good reaction. When you give it to the spectator to do, you've already done it once. You give it to the spectator. That takes quite a bit of cojones, but it's quite important you do that, and I'll come to why in a minute. And then they do it, and so there's a bit of audience management when they're doing it, because they've got to push hard enough to make sure everything works as it should. So you really need to be able to give good descriptions of how hard to press and so on, so that the effect does actually happen when they do it. And once they've done it, you do a little bit of a cleanup, and all is good. One of the problems really is that the solution or the method is pretty much the first one anyone would come up with. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's the same thing with the linking rings. And you can do a very clean display to start off with. So there's no suspicion over the cards to start off with. And then when you do it the second time, if you do it the first time, so if you don't give it to a spectator to do, I found that the cleanup comes at the worst possible time. All of the heat is on you during that cleanup period. You've got very little misdirection. But when the spectator does it, they've got a bigger reaction. The other people around them will be reacting too, and then the cleanup, which only takes a couple of seconds, can be done. It's quite a ballsy cleanup as well. Some people may not be comfortable with it, but trust me, it is possible, and I have been doing it. So that's fine. But I don't think the timing of it or the routining helps you with that in any way. So you've got to get very comfortable with what you're doing. One other issue is the gimmicks, but I'll come to that afterwards. So I actually took this to the Magic Circle because I was a little bit up in the air. And so I sat down with a few of the greats at the Magic Circle. I showed them the effect, and then we had a good little bit of discussion about it. They all really liked the effects. I won't name any names, but because they're not here to give quotes, basically. They actually, some of them thought the gimmick great, nice, simple, does the job. A lot of them weren't that bothered by the cleanup, and the reason is they're not thinking of it as a standalone effect. It's not the one effect they'll be doing. So you could do Diabolical Bet as a nice intro, and then you can move on and do something like the Sax dice routine with the dice. And actually that's quite handy, especially if you are going to move on, you've got a reason to go to your pockets, which is another problem. Actually, coming back to it, another problem with the cleanup is that you've got no reason. You have to go to your pockets in the way that Nicholas Lawrence taught it. I've been doing it slightly differently, and just grabbing things off the table or going from the top of the deck, which you can play around with. But there's no reason to go to your pockets, and you do have to go for your pockets with the tutorial, the way the tutorial's taught. Certainly, unless you do Eric Tate's version that he does at the end. So the version that you've probably seen Nicholas Lawrence doing, you're in and out of your pockets with no real justification. So again, that's a bit of a failing. But if you're going to move on to another effect, you've got a reason to go to your pocket, even if it's just to get the card box or anything like that. So you do need an excuse. But yeah, so the guys at the Magic Circle, they were like, it's great, it's visual, it's very simple. They weren't as bothered by the cleanup as I was, because they're just going to go, well, you just move on to another effect. You just put the cards away and you move on. You can just dump the cards onto the top of the deck and move on, do a card trick, whatever it might be. So yeah, I was more concerned about that than they were, which was a bit of a surprise. So yeah, so they were all quite into it, liked the effect, and some of them had actually bought it and had been playing with it. So that's all very good news. The real problem I've got is the gimmicks. So what you get in the box are the gimmicks. You get the shot glass, which is really good, and you get a dice as well. You just get one dice. 2 dice will be better for a sax routine, but a great magician, Tom Whitestone, showed a routine of moving dots with this dice, with just 1 dice, which was a great follow-up for this trick. And you get the dice. You also get the shot glass. Now, unfortunately, my shot glass didn't survive the journey back from the Magic Circle. So that's a bit of a shame. So that can happen. You don't really want glass at the bottom of your pocket. Trust me on that. So that's a bit of a shame. And then you get the gimmicks. The gimmicks will wear out very, very quickly. So you get 2, but you'll burn through 1 just rehearsing it, and then you're on to the second one, and you're only really I'd say you're going to get a handful of performances out of that before that gimmick is worn to a point you're going to be uneasy using it. Now, you can refresh them. Eric Tate does a nice little bit about how to refresh them, which is dead easy, but it does take time. So it's going to be an overnight job to refresh them. Nicholas Lawrence tells you how to make them, and although they're very simple, they're not that easy to make. Certainly not the way Nicholas taught it. I had to put my glasses on. It was quite there's an accuracy to it, and I couldn't get them as good as the ones that came in the box. I got them passable, which was fine to use them for practicing and so on, but it wasn't as easy as they look, actually. But fortunately, there were some machines where I work, so I was able to quickly duplicate some. But yeah, so the gimmicks wear out very quickly. The gimmicks are also, very cheap. The actual gimmick that does the trick is very cheap, and this is where the problem comes in. So I would say the routine isn't structured terribly well to help certainly a beginner who isn't comfortable with the sleight to clean up. The routine does not help you. It also doesn't help you with, there's no real lecture on the audience management required to have someone else do it. And like I say, when someone else does it, that really helps you with the cleanup. That does buy you more time, which is what you need, more distraction, misdirection. Misdirection's the word. So that's very important. But there's no real tutorial on that. So the gimmick is very, very simple, which in one way is good. But the problem with this whole thing is the price, and that's really what concerns me. It is $39.99 is the list price, general, and that's too much because the actual gimmicks that do the trick are very, very cheap to mass produce. And what you do, the rest of it is, I think, what has bumped it up. So I guess you do need to have the dice because the dice matches the gimmick. So it does have to be a specific dice, and so it's very good that that's included. The shot glass, it doesn't matter. It could be any glass, really, that you found at the bar. Obviously not a flimsy one because you've got to push down on it. And it doesn't have to be a shot glass. And if it was a polycarbonate glass, that would even make more sense because I wouldn't end up breaking it. So that's one. And also you've got the box. So this is where the issue is, combining the shot glass, the dice, the gimmick, and the box has bumped it up, and it really didn't need to be this expensive. If it was the traditional $19.99 of a lot of the Penguin products, and you just got the gimmicks and the dice possibly, in the same way that they do with Wando blocks, they've got all of that Lego in there, and it's still much cheaper than this. So the problem is with the price. The effect is fine. You can figure out the routine, and you can move on to another trick if you have to. But the routine, again, you're going to want to play with that. And I really do suggest learning a sax dice routine because that's a wonderful routine to add on. But the price is just simply too much. And also the fact that the gimmicks wear out so quickly, they could have given you 16 for this price. That is not the expensive bit, and that would really have helped, or even a template or something like that to help you. So you're going to burn through the gimmicks, you're going to end up recreating the gimmicks or refreshing them. You're very unlikely to be able to do this more than 5 times a night with one gimmick, and that's the big issue. So it's just too expensive for what you get, I'm afraid. Lovely visuals, nice audible effect, but it's too expensive. So the only thing I can do really is, because Monster have this in stock, and obviously I'm very keen that people get value for money, I am reducing the price of Die-Abolical. For anyone who's bought it from me, it is now down to $29.99, and anyone who has bought it previously, I shall be giving you the £10 voucher. Just because, unfortunately, I don't think it justifies the price. So there you go. That is Die-Abolical Bet. That is the review by Monster Magic. And stay tuned for another one very soon.